Browns sit at 1-3, traveling to Washington for a 1:00 game on Sunday against the Commanders. And let's be honest, it's getting really close to the season being on the line. We'll talk about it. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all who take the time to make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, we love you to death. We need more of you. So if you're listening for the first time, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. 1-3. September's over. Looking to the next quarter of the 2025 NFL season. Cleveland Browns will travel to Washington on Sunday. Face the flying high Washington Commanders, now 3-1. Jaden Daniels starting to feel his oats. Big first home victory against the New York Giants. Goes into Cincinnati on Monday Night Football, up against former Bayou Bengal, Joe Burrow, former Heisman Trophy winner. Wins. 6 days later, goes in Arizona, beats Kyler Murray in his house. It's a difficult task. There's no question about it. But, all these guys starting to come back from injury for the Cleveland Browns, you don't get this victory. Not sure how much it's going to matter. Your injury designations for Friday. Jack Conklin is questionable. Michael Dunn is questionable. David Njoku, questionable. Pierre Strong, questionable. Jedrick Wills, questionable. Nick Chubb will not be returning this week. Jordan Hicks, and it's probably best in this case, is to just give Jordan Hicks a little time. Obviously, Jordan, banged up a couple games in a row now. Maybe if you give him a full almost 2 weeks from, being on the field, hopefully that'll help Jordan Hicks. Expect to see a lot of, rookie Watson. I'm assuming Devin Bush will start. Devin Bush was one of the guys who actually had a pretty good game last week against the Las Vegas Raiders. Naheem Hines, not there yet as well. And now James Hudson will be going on IR. Has been dealing with a shoulder injury, tweaked it a little bit more last week, and to the point where the Browns are going to shut him down and it'll pretty much be shut down for October. And of course, we all know Alex Wright has already had surgery, and Alex Wright will be headed to IR. The Browns have not made anything official at the time of this recording. Actually, let me just peek and make sure at this time that they have not. And as of this time, no, they have not. So therefore, you probably figure, your normal Saturday moves, 2 people will go on an IR in Alex Wright and James Hudson. Probably going to elevate an offensive lineman would be my guess. And you will probably bring something else off the IR. Off the practice squad to fill in, because you do believe for, at least for Alex Wright, once Mike Hall is back in the building come Tuesday, that will probably be the roster replacement for Alex Wright. Now, you go into this game, and, for Washington, the biggest name to look out for, questionable, is running back Brian Robinson. He did get to practice today in a limited capacity, so we'll certainly see, where we're at 11:30 Sunday morning about, the availability of Brian Robinson. But, the first glaring thing here is with James Hudson out, he has been your starting left tackle this season to this point. Jedrick Wills has played a cup of coffee of football. Jack Conklin. So here we are again, going into week 5. We have no idea who the starting left tackle is. We have no idea how the offensive line is going to break down. Not good. Certainly not good. You're just continuing to try and develop consistency, but it's very, very hard to develop consistency when it is different guys out on the field each and every week. You need Juwan Jones to step up, certainly. Starting to look more like, the rookie that everybody's so excited last season for the potential in the future. Certainly, having his warts here in year 2 to this point. Zach Zinter out there, learning on the fly. Ethan Posick with no designation, so you assume Ethan Posick is going to be good to go. Joe Bitonio, either left guard, left tackle. We'll see how the rest of it breaks down. It's tough, certainly not going to get upset about anything. And, you can't get upset about anything because, that injuries are a problem right now. But still, it's as the NFL. Everybody's got injuries. So at this point, they are dealing with all of that. Um, and it's just been a constant struggle. Look, and what has made the Browns so good the last few years and so good during the entire Barry and Stefanski regime is, that they had such a great offensive line. It certainly made it certainly made running the ball that much easier. It certainly helped when you had a phenomenal running back like Nick Chubb. They were a consistent unit each and every week. Whatever running back went in there and took snaps, they knew and understood where the roles were, where the holes were. They had utmost confidence in that these guys were going to do, what their assignment was to do. Certainly not getting that right now. Although Jerome Ford's starting to put it together, starting to realize and see where daylight is. So for Jerome, if we can just get Jerome going, maybe just a little bit better, and maybe find a way to get Jerome a little bit more involved in the passing game the way he was last year. Keep in mind, he was a guy who had 1,200 total yards last year. So, Jerome could still be a weapon for this team. And defensively, Miles is dinged up. He's not 100%. I think Miles is a little aggravated, and he kind of spoke on that a little bit today. He's aggravated. The team's just not playing well. And I think Miles is probably a little bit aggravated, within his own self. Knowing that he is banged up, knowing that he is dinged up, and he's not necessarily be able to take the snap count that normally he is used to. And he's just not 100%, so when you're not 100%, you're not essentially giving your team everything you possibly can. Although he does have 4 sacks through 4 games, he does have the most pressures in the NFL up until this point. There are no questions with number 95, but when you're a leader, you're supposed to speak like this, and you're supposed to, let people know that, basically the level of play that this team is performing at right now is completely 110% unacceptable. And, it's getting late early. There's no question about it, as we're already here in October. Got second round of Major League Baseball playoffs starting. Good luck, Guardians. And, of course, LFGM. So everybody enjoy the weekend, of course, that. And, we'll kick it off on, Sunday, 1 o'clock, Browns, of course, Commanders. Getting more and more nervous, I think, as we get closer to this game, because I think it's going to take, more of a complete effort. Offense, I think we're starting to see signs, but signs don't mean nothing without production and points. And the fact that this team has yet to throw for 200 yards in a game, rather. Fact that this offense has not been able to put up 20 points yet certainly gives you your concerns. And here's a defense facing a young quarterback who is absolutely red hot to this point. And look, it's odd that a rookie can go on a run of 3 straight wins like Jaden Daniels has, which maybe gives you some hope. Certainly gives you some hope that, Deshaun Watson's only 3 touchdown performance in his career with the Browns was in Washington 2 years ago. And, of course, 2 of those to Amari Cooper. We're going to talk a little bit more here about the Cleveland Browns offense, some expectations, hopefully what we can see here on Sunday. Your latest Locked On Browns continues, and I appreciate y'all for being here. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Pick puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, secure. When my pick hits and I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going to go off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns continues. We always appreciate you all who take the time to make this little show here your first listen every single day. Let's get it going from little to big, grande. Become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Shows are always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, actually, keeping with the prize picks motif, I really think you're going to get a good week from Jerome Ford. Washington struggles with stopping the run. I really think you're getting a nice week from Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. Is David Njoku in this week? My honest belief and my gut is you're going to get the Chief back this week. David is just an absolute he's just a tough dude. I mean, you look no further than the last season, obviously, the horrific home accident, where David ended up charring and burning a good amount of his face and upper body extremities, still went out there and put in a complete effort against the Baltimore Ravens that day. David is an integral part of this team. And, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the case with David but you know how somebody is appreciated, but maybe sometimes some people and some things become more appreciated when they're not around. And I think that's certainly the case we've had over the last 3 weeks without David Njoku. He's kind of really just become a nice little security blanket for whoever has been the Cleveland Browns quarterback. Those all-day crosser routes, the fact that, he runs, routes exceptionally well to the sidelines. He's able to maintain his balance, stay in bounds. He's a really, really difficult guy to be tackled by any secondary player and any team in the NFL. So that would be a big one. I would love for the kid for Wake Forest to stay on and get some snaps. I think he's been kind of impressive last week. Certainly caught the touchdown pass. There was another one where he kind of read Deshaun, basically scrambling out to the left-hand side as opposed to going full on engaging into a block. He was able to release from the block, basically, scramble drill, find himself a nice open patch of grass to help Deshaun Watson get to completion. Again, Jerome Ford. And look, Jerome Ford at this point for me, he is your main back until Nick Chubb comes back. I don't need to see Dante Foreman. I do not need to see Pierre Strong. I don't need to see anybody who's on the practice squad. I don't want to see those guys. I want to see Jerome Ford play as many reps as Jerome Ford can possibly play. I think this offense, certainly the running game, it goes down to a much, much slower rate and lower success rate when Jerome Ford comes off the field. And the fact that Jerome, it can be so established and can be such a huge, huge part of the passing game. It's weird because I think, a lot of people either are all in or all out on Jerome Ford. His rookie year, we barely saw anything. Obviously, his last year, the season was absolutely promising. He's got long speed. He's able to catch the ball and block a little bit. Browns really need to just focus on Jerome Ford, even if it's just this week and maybe Nick Chubb comes back next week. We'll see. A little too early to tell, certainly in that respect. The wide receivers and, look, it can't just be the one guy, and it seems each week it's one receiver that all of a sudden is the only one that's getting the targets. It's the only one the ball is being thrown to. And I just don't get it. I just don't get why you built this room the way you did and invested into it the way you did with a guy like Amari Cooper, certainly now with his third year here. Jerry Jeudy was a player that they really coveted and finally got here. You want to see where Cedric Tillman can be. You certainly want to see, Elijah Moore get more involved as well. We'd love to see the rookie Jamari Thrash. I don't know if it's this week. I certainly don't know when it's going to be. But you built such a nice looking wide receiver room on paper. What are we doing to develop it? And what are we doing to get these guys, more reps, more time? Is it part of the plan? Is it not part of the plan? Because if it's not part of the plan, that plan itself is in fact the problem, if you understand what I'm saying. Look, again, I always understand and I get, and it's terrible, the excuses for the offensive line. They're not playing well, and it doesn't matter what unit is out there. They're just not performing to what have been the expectations of Cleveland Browns offensive line play since 2020. Some of the things, related and, basically put on Andrew Berry by some of the fan base and certainly some of the, media people. I mean, what did you expect? Like you were just going to sign, a 7-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle. And then if, Jedrick Wills or, Jack Uncle were ready to go, this guy wouldn't play. Look, does Andrew Berry need to say, hey, we all thought the offensive line was going to be healthier and more ready to go earlier? Sure, that would have been great. but it's just certainly not the case. So if you really want to, have that conversation, did they maybe mismanage the offensive line? It's probably fair to say, but it wasn't too crazy to think that these guys were going to be ready to go. And even still, if you had known even then that these guys were not going to be available till October, there weren't any major moves you were going to make to cover a 4-week span. But right now, we don't know if Jedrick Wills is starting at left tackle on Sunday. We don't know if Jack Conklin is starting at left tackle on Sunday. We don't know if Joel Bitonio is starting on left tackle on Sunday. We know James Hudson is not starting at left tackle on Sunday. I mean, roll the dice, spin a wheel, because we have no idea who the Cleveland Browns left tackle is Sunday. Heck, could be Jermaine or Feedy. I mean, that's where we're at. But it's tough. It is tough. But you had guys who were making money. You weren't being able to move them as they were coming back off the injury. They did the best they could. I think we all probably know what the number one draft need currently is for the Cleveland Browns. And luckily, it'll be a draft class that's going to have some left tackles for them. Now, getting into Deshaun, 1 month through, I think some of the things that we have seen to this point, the arm is healthy. The ball is being thrown well. We have seen him pressured a ton, a crazy amount to this point. He has been pressured. Certainly, some misplays at times, whether, not seeing, coverage or, things of that nature. And look, it happens. It does. I really think his play against the Raiders was pretty positive overall. You can take away the touchdown from the actual scoring of the game, but he made the play to Amari Cooper and, stepped up in the pocket, climbed the pocket, stepped up, took a hit, fired a seed, hit his guy for what should have been a game-changing touchdown. You could take it off the scoreboard, but you can't take away the fact that he actually made the play. Now, this game, certainly in Washington, where Deshaun had a very successful game, if you remember 2 years ago. If you remember the offensive, the first half was terrible. And he came back through 3 touchdown passes in the second half. He's still got that type of potential. But it goes through him. And look, even if he is looking better, it's still not good enough. It's still not good enough. And that is the biggest problem I think the Browns are having right now is they, we're using words like, okay, it's okay. It's getting better. And this is all relative as we speaking about a team, that went 11-6 last year and went to the playoffs. Those are not the words you want to be using. We're looking for good, great, not okay, getting better. This team is well too established to be using those words and try to put them into a positive light. We're going to continue here a little bit more on the defense. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a bang and a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Closing out your latest Locked On Browns. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. You guys are all the best. Thanks for all the support, and everybody makes the show the first listen every single day. If you are not an everydayer, making new plans, then subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. And so we can go here and we get into, obviously, a little bit more here. A little bit more about the Browns defense and looking at Jaden Daniels to this point. We've certainly seen Terry McLaurin a bunch. By my records and what work I've done, this is now Terry McLaurin's 3rd game against the Cleveland Browns years ago with Dwayne Haskins, if you remember, R.I.P. big guy. And then, of course, last year as well. Terry is, 2 years ago, Terry is, he's a special guy, special player. He kind of reminds me a little bit about, Amari Cooper, light type of receiver, good route runner, good hands. Certainly kind of coming in and being that guy for Jaden Daniels. You get to Jaden Daniels, and there's just so many superlatives you want to use. I mean, probably just 10 times better, I think, than advertised to this point. Really, really impressive 3-game winning streak. Even more impressive, the last 2 victories were on the road. Not saying that Cincinnati and Arizona are the most difficult places to play, but he's winning on the road nonetheless. And now you keep in mind, they've already had 3 road games, only 1 home game. So now the schedule should hopefully start to turn in their favor. And look, this is a team I wanted to play early in the season. I certainly have my doubts about playing them early in the season now, as well as young quarterback Jaden Daniels is playing. He's really, really taken in and just stepped in, and you listen to everything he says. He's a very positive young man. He's very appreciative of everything that has come his way to this point. It's really, really, you want to see guys like this succeed. Certainly not Sunday by any means whatsoever. But you look at Jim Schwartz, and first thing I am thinking, and look, Jim doesn't blitz a ton. It's just not his nature. Jim goes and makes sure his team gets him the defensive lineman he needs, so he does not have to basically bring the kitchen sink and leave vulnerable coverages that can be exploited by the opposing quarterback. However, this week, I am sending everything I've got at Jaden Daniels if I am Jim Schwartz. I'm sending the house, and I'm sending the house often. And when my guys are tired from blitzing, I will take them off the field, and I will put in fresh guys, and I will blitz them as well. You need to make this young man's life a living HE double hockey sticks. Miles can't do it alone. Miles is not 100%, so we know Miles cannot do it alone. But you need to start this right off the bat. And this kid's got to get hit, and he's got to get hit hard, and he's got to get hit often. I'm not saying you're going to expect the kid to quit, but, if you remember a few years ago when Justin Fields made his first career start for the Chicago Bears, I believe Miles had like 5 that day. Browns had like 9, 10 that day. All day long. All day long. You're not sure if Brian Robinson's going to play. If he's not, they don't have a big threat of a running game. They don't necessarily have a big threat of a running game anyway. Jaden Daniels doesn't do a lot of designed running of the football. A lot of it is breakdown in coverages and nobody's open, or just leaving the pocket because he needs the yardage and he's been in the pocket too long. He's great with his legs, his speed, open speed. But you got to hit hits on him. And, that is what it's going to take to be able to slow down a young man of his talent, of his athleticism. This is a big one. It really is. You're sitting here at 1-3. And you got Philadelphia on the docket next week, and then you come home afterwards to play Cincinnati. Great. Oh, Nick Chubb will be coming back. Naheem Hines will be coming back. It's not going to be a hill of beans if this team is 1-4 or 1-5. It's not going to be nothing. So you need to just go out there and do what you need to do. And, if that means it's a game plan of Deshaun Watson, David Njoku, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Jerome Ford, and I don't care about anybody else, I get it. It's certainly hurting the development of other players, which I spoke on earlier. I have no idea what the Browns' offensive line is going to look like, and that terrifies the daylights out of me. It just seems so crazy and odd that we are talking about the fact that we do not know who the starting offensive line is. Even if you had players out, you can usually say, all right, well, then this is going to be the offensive line. That is not the case right now, and it's terrifying. It's just absolutely terrifying. Nick, we know it's not going to be this week. Nick Chubb, most of the things he did in practice this week were scout team type work, which is, the phase before you start flipping over, and just getting his work in. And I think the biggest thing, certainly for Nick and certainly for Naheem Hines, is they were there every day. Made 3 practices in a row. Great sign, obviously. David was on Wednesday, off on Thursday, on Friday. Now, if you go by that would mean David would be off on Saturday and maybe on Sunday. it's huge. David is one of the more integral parts of this team. And, it's certainly not just his talent on the field. It's certainly not the fact that, if he's not playing, they don't necessarily really even have a quality tight end or even a average tight end on their roster. I don't need to see more passes thrown to Jordan Akins. I want to see passes thrown to 85. I want to see passes thrown number 2. I want to see passes thrown number 3, 8, 19, 34. Those are the guys that need to be involved. And certainly needed to get, hopefully, Deshaun to put together yet another positive performance that hopefully this one we will start to see the statistical output come along with it. Can we get to 250? I mean, hell, I know we want to break 200, but can we at least get to 250? 2-3 touchdown passes. Let's not make this a nail biter in the last few minutes like we continuously keep to do. And, the offensive line, whatever 5 they are, need to go out there and be the best version of themselves defensively, control the young quarterback, hit him early, hit him hard, hit him often and late. Make Jaden Daniels' life a living hell. Confidence meter is not high, but Cleveland Browns, 23. Washington Commanders, 20. Browns will make it 2-3 Sunday in Washington. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd is a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. I suggest you become a filthy animal. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB, not ELOB. Let's go Browns.